Am I there for them, or am I there for me? I see that as an absolutely fundamental question. And I start here with a personal story. When I started doing aid work in India about 15 years ago, and it came to me one day that, you know, I'd been thinking all along, I'm there in service for others, I'm there to help, to do something to improve the world. And then one day I started to realise that I was also there for myself. I had my own reasons and motivations for being there. It wasn't just all about them. And I guess this is probably a similar story. Many volunteers or people who, when they start getting involved in this sector, that will tell about their initial kind of wish to save the world and thinking that it's all about selflessness. So my point here is that I'm sure selfless motivations do underpin a lot of work that is done in the aid sector, but equally there are aspects of self-interest, and this happens something at the individual level. It's something that's also there at the organisational level, so various private sector companies or NGOs themselves, they have to look also to their own interests and their own ongoing viability, not just about the outcomes of the work they do. And in terms of donors and politicians, we know that most of the aid doesn't necessarily go to the countries who are most in need. So in the world, the 63 poorest countries receive less than half the overseas development aid. So that means donors aren't necessarily focusing exactly where the aid is needed. They're focused also based on their own needs and interests to do with trade, to do with other kinds of issues. And so in the aid sector, you've got these multiple stakeholders. You've got each of them with kind of multiple interests and motives. And while the sector is getting better at recognising these interests and recognising their own interests, and focusing better on what matters for the people in developing countries, for the governments of developing countries, it is an area where we've still got a fair way to go. So my point here is that we need to acknowledge and to minimise our self-interest. We need to at least have some level of awareness of it. And we need to remain open and humble enough that we step back from the change process and make sure that it is owned by others. And that's been a recurring theme through tonight's presentations.